voters know exactly what the problem is because the media doesn't seem to be telling them.
When we end the wars overseas, bring the troops home, and allow the healing to begin, it will be because of you.
They did everything they could to keep Tulsi Gabbard off that debate stage because they didn't want to hear what she had to say.
There are soldiers currently deployed who weren't even born when the war on terror began.
There's no reason we need to spend taxpayer dollars on defending the soil of Germany, France, and other. The longer we stay where we shouldn't be, the more problems we're going to be causing.
Millions of Americans swear an oath to defend the Constitution of the United States against enemies, foreign and domestic. And then they are sent overseas to fight and kill and potentially die to protect the interests of billionaire military contractors, cynical politicians, and foreign dictators. When they come home, they are subjected to the very worst healthcare in this country and treated like second-class citizens. They deserve so much better than that.
I will bring the troops home. I will turn America into one giant Switzerland, armed and neutral. There is no reason why we need to continue to be the policemen of the world.
That drives it. You are the power.
The Veterans Administration is among the worst in our healthcare system. This top-down monopoly is unacceptable for any person, let alone those willing to sacrifice their lives in service to our country.
Jo Jorgensen is going to end the wars and bring the troops home and treat them to the care that they deserve and allow the healing to begin.
We need to have a strong military defending our shores, but there is no reason for us to be defending the rest of the world. It only makes things worse. We've got to come home. I'm Jo Jorgensen, and I approve this message.
And welcome to Campaign Update. An informal version tonight, if you will, of the Campaign Update. This is a show dedicated to connecting the grassroots of the libertarian movement to the historic Jo Jorgensen, Spike Cohen 2020 campaign. Normally a little bit more formal, but I've got joining me tonight someone who's a relatively new friend of mine, but yet somehow we've made this connection. I'm not quite sure where that came from, but we just have. It's kind of like almost a man crush, dare I say that. Of course, I'm talking about Richard Manzo, who I've just horrified live on the internet. He is effectively the campaign manager for the Jo Jorgensen Spike campaign for New England. So he is my boss. I serve him loyally with great vigor. Richard, welcome back to the coalition. You are a 3 or 4 time offender at this point. I'm not quite sure where you go with your internet criminality, but when I say that, that means that you have joined us on a variety of occasions and a variety of, if you will, situations. You're a candidate yourself. You're running for treasurer up in here in New Hampshire. You're managing a handful of campaigns. Most notably, you're deeply involved with the Nick Sarwark campaign. We'll talk about a little bit about that. You are a avid habitué of, if you will, petitioner parties and signature parties at a variety of soggy, wet streets around New England, because it's your favorite thing to do. We know that now. And you're a denizen of late-night pancake joints, where you and other libertarians can, if you will, in a variety of sordid environments, fight the duopoly. Richard, I don't even just know if this qualifies for his show, so let's just start talking. How's it going, buddy? It's been at least 7 or 8 hours. How you doing?
I'm doing wonderfully. 50-plus DC ballot access accomplished, finally.
Don't
agreed
say
on all
it yet.
counts. Everything you listed, agreed.
Don't say it yet. It isn't official yet. I've seen some of the rejection rates. Folks, okay, let's talk about ballot access. The way this works, and for those of you who have never been through a petition drive, there's magic in the air. That's all I'm saying. It's a not to be missed. It's a life-changing experience. Words cannot really detail how just horrifying it is on so many levels. Let's have like kind of a sort of an encounter session here, folks. If you've ever been part of a petition and ballot drive, then you know. This may have actually finally replaced the 30-plus year nightmare I've had about my final exam senior year of college. I will perhaps for the rest of my life wake up terrified on the last Friday in August, or the first Friday in August, whatever the hell it is, terrified that I don't have enough signatures. When I'm 85, I will wake up in a nursing home somewhere. Oh my God, I've got to get ballots over to Providence. I mean, that's how just outrightly horrifying this is. So let's go through the top 10 horrifying reasons why ballot and petition drives are just terrible. What was the worst part of this for you? The sheer unmitigated terror?
The unmitigated terror of an angry Democrat telling you that they won't sign your petition because that might flip the bluest state in the union red in November. That's probably number one. Top horrifying, illogical occurrence when petitioning for ballot access.
Yeah, I had someone screaming at me at an otherwise normal IGA supermarket on the east side, the Tony East Side, as they say, of Providence, Rhode Island, a couple weeks ago. Now, not that I didn't enjoy it, and I will cherish forever the political exchange we had, particularly when I mentioned to her that if in fact Trump wins, that Trump's coming to get her. But it's how give voice, if you will, to what's going on. First of all, talk about the structure and why we have to petition, why we have to get ballot access through this insane manner.
Well, every state essentially requires parties to show that they have what they call a modicum of support to establish that people actually want their candidates to appear on the ballot. But those requirements are set by the two parties specifically to disallow their competition from participating in elections. Some states are way better than others. Some states are completely illogical by every known standard to man. But that's the basis of the thing.
And having spent quality time in a variety of states and cities, and where would you put Rhode Island on the list after this terrifying 2 or 3 day experience you had?
It was hard. It's not a right to petition state. So we had to petition just over the border in Massachusetts, hoping that some people were Rhode Island voters, at least when we came down from New Hampshire. But I think in terms of the hardest states, I would probably have to say Maine this year was number one, at least for New England.
Yeah. And so, describe, if you will, the typical encounter. You're standing on a street corner.
Yes.
It's literally standing on a street corner. Otherwise, normal Americans are walking up and down the street. The normies are out there in the normie world, something that clearly folks in the movement have divorced themselves from. And give us a typical exchange, if you will.
Someone's walking by, you're standing on the street corner holding a clipboard, and you stop them, and in my case the first question would be, hi, are you a Rhode Island voter? And if they say yes, at that point you go down the rest of your spiel. Would you like to sign a petition to allow us on the ballot in November? People will have questions. Allow who on the ballot? For what office? Who is this person? What party are they from? You answer those questions, and from there, about 25-30% of the time they'll say yes in Rhode Island.
The odds varied by locale and just the general temperament. We're a surly bunch here, aren't we?
Yeah, a little bit. Very aggressive drivers, I noticed.
Do you get the subcurrent of anger that seems to be everywhere?
Yes, of course.
Can you correlate that roughly with Democratic leadership? That the more liberal the place is, seemingly the angrier the place is. I mean, there are some.
Well, I've noticed that the bluer a state is, the worse the drivers are. So there is that correlation.
Were you tempted, at least after one angry exchange, just with someone who just hated our very existence, to just descend into a hailstorm of coughing and sneezing? Just for fun.
No, I wouldn't think of that. For me, it's like once you reach a no, it's like, all right, just let's end this interaction so I can move on to the next person.
Oh my God. And of course, one of the great controversies that will arise as a result of a variety of pictures that surfaced on the internet over the last few days, IHOP versus Waffle House. Your thoughts?
Yes. Waffle House, of course, has a place in the hearts of every libertarian. But this IHOP was very accommodating to us colonizing and using an entire section of the restaurant as our petitioning headquarters.
There are 39 cities and towns, approximately, they tell me, in the great state of Rhode Island. Roughly, just so you know, that translates into approximately 7 IHOP tables. That's very important math, particularly when there's day-old coffee and, even worse yet, day-old Mountain Dew floating around vicariously, and
Yes.
floating in the environment.
The stench of the old coffee and the old Mountain Dew starts to get to you after a few days when sitting in the IHOP with no sleep and thousands of pieces of paper to count.
Right, and better yet, I mean, it would appear that somewhere around 1 o'clock in the morning, the restaurant staff, who are they're great. And listen, folks, if you're ever in Providence, Rhode Island, if you should be, over on Pleasant Valley Parkway. How do I know that? Because thanks to Jackie Perry, who did a fabulous job in support and moral support and just pitched right in. There are thousands of New Englanders who texted me last night, and I got to write Pleasant Valley Parkway approximately 60 or 70 times. But
Yes.
If you're on Pleasant Valley Parkway, there is an IHOP. It's the service staff is great. The food is great. The place is spotlessly clean. And they're open 7/24, even during the dread COVID, even during the plague. They remain available to a variety of street life, folks who have clearly more dignity clearly more dignity than campaign workers. But please stop by, because but at about 2 o'clock in the morning, I sense they just abandoned our half of the restaurant. They just literally abandoned it. I mean, it was like the streets of Seattle, all right in the heart of an IHOP. Because they just gave up, and they literally left us alone. There was a back path to the bathrooms. They occasionally tossed in glasses of Mountain Dew and then just let us have the place. I'm sorry, a lot of inside jokes, but it's funny. This is the kind of stuff. This is the camaraderie and stories that grow out of engagements like this are all around campaigns, and that's what we want to talk about tonight is volunteering. Because as twisted as it was, we literally ended up at 4 o'clock this morning. We went back, packed it all up, divvied up packs of states. Rhode Island is one of these states where, like Maine, and Maine, of course, is an astonishingly big place, but you have to gather up all the petitions, count them up, verify that the signatures were placed correctly, verify that the endorsements on the back of it are correct, and then break it down into 39, in our cases, packages, which we then spent an hour or two theorizing about how 6 or 7 people could drive around the state. Now, of course, the first thing you say is, Rhode Island's a tiny place. How long could it take? Well, we don't have real roads here. We have cow paths that have evolved into partially paved bases for transportation. So whereas, for example, if you're in Providence, the great city of Westerly, which is a wonderful vacation spot, Taylor Swift owns a manse right outside of, so it must be good, right? It can take you an hour and a half to get 30 or 40 miles because there's no way to get there from here. So we broke it all out, and after heading home at 4 o'clock, by 8 or 9 o'clock, most of us were back on the road, bringing it to happy town clerks who were clearly excited by the fact that despite usually being closed on Fridays, they were there till 4 o'clock today to wait for us. So at about
Yes.
a quarter of 4, when I had a cheery hello for the town clerk of Bristol, she looked at me. She was actually very professional. She was lovely. But she looked at me as if to say, really? 5 minutes ago? and
Well, that's not our fault. They're making us do this.
well, but part of this is, all right, as twisted as this sounds, when folks started showing up over the last week or so to help out, last week or two for that final push, and the final push was so good it blew up our numbers from 4 years ago. I mean, we ended up with somewhere, I think, between 18 and north of 1,800 signatures. The camaraderie, I mentioned in the last show, and a little bit more about maudlin, try to be professional, I try to be adult, but the camaraderie, the friendships, the shared experiences, all fell into line with our shared sort of worldview that most of us have. And, I will always be grateful for the folks who pitched in this week to get us over the line. Rhode Island, by the way, for trivial purposes, is the last state in the nation to get paperwork, and it is always the last state in the nation to have ballots too. So we went through this 4 years ago. We went through it this time. There's nothing quite like being the subject of literally dozens of internet stories. Rhode Island's the last one. And in case you didn't know, Pat, they all had like little throbbing pictures of me. Pat, by the way, just so you know, Rhode Island's the last one. If you weren't aware of it, Pat, it's 49 plus the District of Columbia. Will you be the one single-handedly responsible for breaking what is an impressive streak by the Libertarian Party and getting on to all 50 state ballots 2 times in a row, which is, last time it was great because we were the first time since H. Ross Perot. And now all of a sudden we've got an opportunity. And don't think for a moment that the duopoly isn't scrambling, trying to figure out. I mean, I've got this. The reason why I won't admit it that it's done, despite having 1,800 plus signatures in a 1,000 signature state, is that I've got this mental image. If you've ever seen the movie Monsters, Inc., where in the presence of a human being, little characters jump off from the ceiling, all right, chanting, ready to go to battle. I've got the image of Secretary of State's offices everywhere in this nation, flying in on an emergency basis, people to engage in DNA-based investigations of our ballot sheets to try and figure out how the hell they're going to get it below $1,000. Persons, votes, whatever. I don't know. Am I delusional at this point? I don't know.
Possibly. I think they do try to. They do try to play their dirty tricks, but generally, once you get there's a critical mass that they can't cheat their way past.
Try as they may.
And
the folks that we meet from the clerk's offices, they're great people. They're the heart and soul of every town. Wonderful people. However, they all report to their very own version of Snidely Whiplash. That's a dated term. With the poll bosses who aren't excited by our presence. The duopoly, typically speaking, Richard, is not really. They don't play well with others, do they?
No, not at all. They don't want us to be involved in their game. This is a 2-player ball game in their mind.
Right. And nowhere is that more present than a place like Rhode Island. Rhode Island trivia is the second bluest state in America by most calculations, after Vermont. A shout out to my buddy Archie up in Vermont. God bless you, lad. We are the second bluest state. We have an astonishing mix, to make it even more complicated, of students recently arrived to this nation, folks who are not eligible to vote, and which makes the challenge even more. We've got folks. This is a melting pot. We've got folks from Cambodia, from Vietnam, from literally every Latin American and Central American nation, from all over Europe. And then we've also got the academic community here from literally all parts of the world at Brown University, the Rhode Island School of Design. And then you've got actually even a bigger force, which is the sheer volume of felons who recently served in state government. They're not allowed to vote, and as a result, they're not allowed to sign a petition. And so it's a challenge, to say the least. But, it's not, as Richard pointed out, it's not like any other challenge that other states face. I had the opportunity for a day or so to spend time in Maine. And they've got their own, challenges with Trumpers and Bideners and all these folks who Because the biggest, and I want your reactions, Richard, because you've done petitioning in several states. The biggest challenge wasn't the dread COVID, although that clearly created a element of fear for a number of people who weren't exactly entranced with the idea of chatting with strangers, potentially about politics. The weather certainly played a role this summer. We had several rain days in the last week. Other days, we had a whole string of 95-plus degree days here in Rhode Island. That didn't help. To me, the single biggest influence was the polarization of the American voters. What do you think about that?
I think that you're right. People were literally scared to sign a petition just because the presence of another candidate on the ballot would make their candidate lose. And, the media and the parties themselves and their adherents have created this dichotomy where it's like every election is an existential question. If my guy loses, that means the country is going to end in the next 4 years. We're just done. We can't make it 4 years.
Well, you've actually got a presidential candidate out there saying that. I mean,
essentially.
You've got the prospect and now the reality of a sitting American president going out there and suggesting to people, he clearly knows how to dance the line, allegedly tongue-in-cheek, telling people to vote twice. Yep. While at the same time, while he's campaigning, telling people that if they don't vote for him, there will be extensive death and violence in the streets.
Yeah, I mean, what I've heard from both sides so far is that if the other side wins, they must have cheated to do it. If Trump wins, it's because he removed all the mailboxes and cut all the overtime from the post office and stopped the mail from being delivered. And if Joe Biden wins, it's because, there's hundreds of millions of votes out there that were mailed in, illegal immigrants voting, people being bused to polling booths that they can't vote at. So it's just cheating all around. And, obviously from our perspective, they've been cheating since the very beginning to win every time. But this new thing where it's like you can't win legitimately in anyone's eyes, certainly plays a part to that polarization.
Yeah. So we've got this past us now, for better or for worse. Again, we doing this, right? The real prospect, again, of having 50 states in the District of Columbia, obviously enticing. Where do we go from here? And what I wanted to talk about tonight was how important it is to have volunteers. And I'll just set up one more time. In the last couple of weeks, I've personally been involved to a little bit degree in Maine. I went up for a day and a half to Maine on a weekend to petition. Big deal, right? There are people out there struggling for days and weeks. And then obviously, I'm very focused on the Rhode Island situation. But I just want to set this equation up once, and I'd love you to tell me how folks can volunteer and why it's so important. In the state of Maine, there is a 4,000 signature approval level. The Libertarian Party in the year 2020, when the smoke cleared and all was done, received approval on 4,007 signatures. Now, I went up that day, spent a day in Portland. I'm not the best petitioner at all. I'm not as experienced as I should be. In-state ballot candidates here have very low levels. It's the national stuff and that really differentiates from the local stuff. So I got about a whopping 8 or 9 signatures. If I decide that weekend to blow it off, and it's a sunny, and actually spend more time down in Rhode Island, go away for the weekend, sleep in, to any one of the temptations that any one of us face every weekend, we don't get in.
Yeah.
Now that's
any
not that
single one of us.
Right. I was going to say that doesn't make.
I don't think any one of us got less than 7 signatures in the time that we spent in Maine, even if it was just a single day. So any single one of us decides it's too hot. Any one of us decides not to brave the rain. Anyone decides not to make the trip. We don't get it. So, having those volunteers who are willing and passionate is vital to the success of the campaign. And, nobody is ever thanked enough, but, we really, everyone appreciates it. We all appreciate each other, and thank God that we have those people.
Right. And I was about to say, that's not to put me up against any one of us.
Any one of us. Yep.
And there were countless people who got engaged in this in one of the largest states physically in the entire eastern part of the country, and just one of the more transportationally challenged. It ain't easy to get around in Maine either. So while we don't know the verdict in Rhode Island yet, again, what this says, the message to all of us, is that every one of us counts. We need everybody to find a way to contribute. And there's so many different talents people have. Mine clearly isn't petitioning. I mean, I had a couple of good days, but I sat at a table last night at 2 a.m. with legends of petitions. I'm talking about guys like Elijah Gisarelli, who just goes out there and just blows it out of the ballpark. I mean,
absolutely,
and just a relentless amount of energy and personality,
yep.
plus to go around, and unlike me, manages not to offend anyone. So I'm sort of the anti-Elijah, right? But
yeah, Elijah was amazing, outstanding. Could not have done it without Elijah. Absolutely
right.
not.
Right, because again, it's a combination of things. He's a hella petitioner. He's funny.
Yep.
People like, and his energy level just lights up a room. He's
yep.
there to work. He's a lot of fun, but he's there to work. And when you meet him, he's as low key and a relaxed a guy as ever. But he pushes the button when it's time to work, and he just tears it apart. So I'm going to turn the mic over to you, Richard. I've shared my share of Rhode Island stories from this week, but give us a sense of what people need, where we need help to get. Just lay it out for us.
Well, so this petitioning drive in Rhode Island, we dropped everything to come down to New Hampshire. And one of the things that we dropped, Jackie Perry is in charge of the text banking and phone banking operation of the campaign. So we had to put that off for a couple of days to go down and petition. But she needs people to volunteer for that. She's going to have a great new system set up fairly soon, where you get fed more contacts to help reach out to supporters of the campaign and give them updates on the campaign. So there's things that you can do from home like that. We need canvassers, people to go up, knock doors, talk to voters, drop literature if they're not home or they don't want to talk to you because of COVID. So there's any number of things that you can do. If you have unique skills, absolutely reach out to me, Richard Manzo at jo20.com. We'll get you in touch. I'll put you in the state that you belong in. If you're watching and you're not from the region, I'll still put you in touch with who you need to be in touch with. Anything that you can do, it really does make a difference. 7 signatures. If it's worth 7 signatures, you make the difference.
We've got a lot of things planned for the campaign now that, hopefully, knock on wood, we're past sort of the dreaded stage. This is where it becomes fun. And
yes,
one of the beauties of this campaign is that it is an open tent, isn't it, Richard? I mean, we're, and I'm not here to criticize other campaigns, but other campaigns in the past have had a little bit more of an insular feeling. Here,
yes.
We're open and available. We need you to work. I mean, how
for real.
This is as welcoming as it gets. There's an opportunity literally to be involved in just about any area of effort that you want, isn't there?
Yep. Yeah. If you want to help out with social media, text banking, canvassing, phone banking, putting out yard signs, delivering signs to people, delivering stickers to people, anything that you can do helps. And, your original background, we're welcoming to everyone. We have policies that appeal to Democrats. We have policies that appeal to Republicans. We have factions within the Libertarian Party who have come together to unite around this candidate. And the campaign has united around the different factions as well. This is the biggest tent candidate that we've ever had. If your thing is criminal justice reform, if your thing is gun rights, if your thing is lower taxes, no matter what it is, we have somewhere that we can put you. We have people that you can talk to, voters that you can convince. Whatever it is, whatever your skill set is, we can use you.
Yeah, and imagine this. At this point, if you're still listening to this broadcast, you're probably pretty committed to the notion of a world without wars, of a world with economic freedom, of a world where a criminal justice system doesn't prey on people itself, where the criminal justice system aren't the biggest criminals. These are things that you're dying, that you live for. Imagine for the next 60 or 70 days, you have, I called it earlier, license to ill. Obviously, I'm of a certain generation. Right? You have the opportunity, the framework to go after the duopoly, to go after our war machine, to challenge the omnipotent state in a way that's difficult to do as an individual. The purpose of party is to bring people together of similar, not identical. There are no litmus tests in this party. And there's certainly none in this campaign. But with the company and aid and assistance and structure available to support the type of assaults that we need to make, and of course the most peaceful manner, right? It's peacefully, civilly disobedient. You've got the opportunity to challenge all of them. As individuals, how often do you have that opportunity? At this moment in history when people are paying laser-like attention to the campaign, you get to be that disruptor, don't you, Richard? I mean, you talk about disruptive technologies. How about disruptive political behavior?
Wouldn't it be nice to feel like you're not on the defensive for once? Wouldn't it feel like you're finally taking the fight to the duopoly, of course, peacefully with your vote, but taking down the duopoly instead of just fearing it, instead of just trying to back away and protect yourself from it. Finally, taking the steps that you need to be free in your lifetime.
Right. There's nothing less than that at stake. At a time when the behavior of government in the run-up to the environment on which this dread disease played is thoroughly in question, why not join us and fight? It's interesting, Richard, in the beginning, in the first month or so of the COVID era, if you will, because I think it qualifies for an era, sadly, of the COVID era, there were political pundits out there who said this would be the death of libertarianism, that this would point out the need for the collective behavior, this would, of many, in order to fight this disease. When, in fact, the reality is proven now that while the duopoly did not cause this disease, they did not create it for us, the duopoly created a set of circumstances, behaviors, and now conditions under which we operate, which have distinctly limited our ability to respond to COVID. What do I mean by that?
Yes.
Joe was on a few weeks ago. We talked about certificate of needs. We talked about anti-free market policies, which limited the ability of our medical industry here to grow organically and react to market conditions. I live in a state here with Rhode Island. Now, Richard, we didn't have much time to drive around and have fun because it was all work. We had a lot of laughs, but it was all work. But one of the things you may or probably didn't notice was the near absence of minute clinic style emergency clinic buildings. And the reason why is because the state literally went on a jihad against them a few years ago. And I use the word jihad intentionally because it has resulted in loss of life, particularly in the urban core, where traditional hospitals may not have been either allowed, again, by not by market forces, but by government intrusion. And as a result, we had that less of a platform with which to initially engage in fighting COVID because we had fewer places to test. Simple example. All right.
I mean, that it's a good example. You've heard Spike Cohen say this before. The greatest hypocrisy of the government, the most malicious hypocrisy of the government is they say that only they can solve these problems, and then they completely bungle the response to every single problem that comes up. But anytime someone comes up with a free market solution, do they allow it? No. They put those people in jail, they slap them with fines, they publicly shame them, and they don't come back. It stifles innovation, and it most certainly has resulted in loss of life this time.
Right. And so as a result, not only has libertarianism not been thwarted, not only has libertarian not been diminished, the libertarian movement sees really the light of day, and it is emerging amongst people as a recognized philosophy for empowering the individual, who then can come together based not on by the coercive power of government, but can come together and innovate, create solutions, provide alternatives to people, to situations like COVID, out of free will and personal desire. It's really that simple. So now we've got a living case study in front of us. A case study, by the way, that has, depending on your interpretation of the statistics, has either killed or aided and embedded in the death of hundreds of thousands of Americans. We need you. We need folks to get up out of their comfort zone. You know, there's a quote that I often employ, Richard, and it part of the quote is to rip people from the suburbs of their minds. I grow frustrated because, for example, I actually saw a chat that someone started, well-intentioned, to discuss, well, who should we have run in 2024? Are you kidding me?
We're not even through this yet.
Right.
You need to get up and start fighting now, not plan for the fight that you're going to get into in 2024. We lose ground every single year. We need to step up our game, and we need to start focusing on the here and now. Circumstances are never perfect. You never, ever have a perfect candidate. No party ever has had a perfect candidate. It's time to start fighting now. You can't wait. It's now or never.
Right. Literally. You know, we see the forces of government taking advantage of what's that old, now it's become almost cliche. Never let a good opportunity, never let a good calamity, never let a good disaster go to waste.
Right.
That's what you see happening. Folks who oppose our very base philosophy, who oppose our entire way of existence, are aggressively working. This is not conspiracy theory. I'm not talking about 5G or any of that stuff. I'm talking about people actively engaged in government who are using this as an opportunity to control your behavior.
Yes.
And I'm not telling you not to wear a mask or not to social distance, but that the way that they're re-engineering our education, the way they're re-engineering how commerce rules, the favoritism being clearly applied to large corporations, while at the same time literally crucifying the small business base here in America, all that's taking place right in front of you right now. If you are a libertarian, why would you not be enraged by that? Why would that not take you off the goddamn computer, turn it off, after you're done listening to the show, of course, and take it to the streets tomorrow? This was the first campaign that I really was involved heavily in petitioning. I'm not a good petitioner. But it afforded me the opportunity to meet people on the streets of Providence and have conversations with many of them, some of whom would refuse to sign our petition. Some of them I actually had to engage in half-hour-long conversations. I know this is a shock for people who know me, but I was able to do that. And yet at the same time, I was able to understand and become more empathetic to the problems and the issues that they challenge. And when we explained to them that, for example, in some of the toughest neighborhoods in Providence, that we had the same and shared attitudes towards policing as it's conducted in Providence, Rhode Island, all of a sudden there was the beginnings of a bond.
Yeah.
I had a conversation with a gentleman about something called the Jump Out Boys. If you want, the Jump Out Boys in Providence are allegedly an anti-gang unit that became known over the years for literally pulling their police cars partially onto the sidewalk, 3 or 4 police officers jumping out at the same time, and using a variation on stop and frisk of young people of color who were not engaged in criminality, but whom they merely wanted to check on and register in some type of hellish gang database, whether they were part of it or not, merely for the style of clothing they wore or the type of conversations or the music they were listening to. That's America in the year 2020. Those are the people we need to engage. And guess what,
Absolutely.
folks? I'm done in a second here. Sorry, Richard. This is one of those exhaustive rants. But guess what? I'm gonna tell Richard a little secret here. Hey, Richard, guess what? People aren't going to find them in a goddamn Facebook chat room.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, it's time to get out there, and it's time to start offering these people who society has still not evolved a place for, and offer them a place in a free society where people truly do have equal rights in the eyes of the law. We don't live in that system right now. We like to pretend that we live in a post-racial society because we've had a black president, but things still don't get better for people of color. It seems like at this point, police are engaged in targeted abuse, harassment, and violence of black people, simply to show that they still can, before they can't. We will make that gain. We will end qualified immunity, and we will hold police officers accountable for their misdeeds towards the communities of color across this country. We have to do it. This abuse and violence, it needs to end. If we don't do it peacefully, politicians are going to put themselves in a place where people will rise up in violent opposition to the government. It happens all around the world. Let's solve it peacefully now while we still can. Get out there on the streets. Talk to voters. Get them to get around to the same page that we're on, that we've been leading the front on for years and years. And let's finally make these gains. Let's make people equal in eyes of the law.
Talk to us about the campaign structure here in New England, and it's similar in other regions. How are things set up? And so as a result, how can people reach out to the campaign? If you were the manager for New England, talk about some of the folks who are, were working in a sense for you under your supervision. Give folks an idea of the different folks involved.
Yeah, in each region, there's a regional coordinator. Below them, there's the 2 state leads in each state. Just to use Rhode Island as an example, Pat Ford, one of the state leads in Rhode Island, Lucy Raposo, the other state lead in Rhode Island. So you'll have people who place you in the area of best fit, make you succeed, and any skill you have, social media, delivering signs, logistics, whatever it may be, we can use your skills. We can use them right. This is a fully fleshed out campaign that's ready to use anyone who wants to help. It's not like we have anything that's not ready for you. And to be honest with you, if you have a special skill, something that we're not doing, I can hardly think of anything that we're not doing. But if you have something that we're not doing, reach out. We can find a place for you. We will make things happen if you have a real legitimate skill, something that you feel the campaign needs to be doing. We will make it happen. We will make it happen.
So we've got this Jackie Perry. If you haven't met, she's a passionate libertarian, married to Darryl Perry, who is a very passionate libertarian, and one of the folks who brought me over to something called the radical side of the Libertarian Party. Jackie's running this texting service, if you will. So there, if folks can sign up on a variety of places, you can be literally at the end of a text, which is going to direct you to action. We got hundreds of responses to our situation here in Rhode Island where we needed some last-minute help to get us over. Again, we come a long way, but the last couple of weeks we just needed some more ammunition, and bang, we're getting phone calls. There's going to be, I'm just going to say this, in Rhode Island, there are going to be some very peaceful, what do you youngins call it? Flash mobs, right? Yeah. We've done picket lines here in Rhode Island.
Yep.
I'm proud of that. We take it to the streets. There's going to be opportunities for that type of action, at least in this part of New England, because why not?
Yeah, for real. I mean, I personally, I'm a pure pacifist. I believe in absolute radical nonviolence. And this is the way you fight back. You take to the streets, peaceful civil disobedience, make your voice heard, get out there and vote, get out there and speak at your city council meetings, get out there and wave signs, get out there and, like you said, flash mobs. It doesn't matter. Just make your voice heard. Peaceful civil disobedience. Get a group of libertarians together. They're not gonna mess with you. Take it to the State House, take it to the City Hall, whatever you need to do. Make your voice heard. You talk at these city council meetings. It's extremely effective. A lot of cities around the country are making strides towards some semblance of not allowing their citizens to be living in constant fear of their police. Whether that be banning chokeholds, adopting absolute necessity doctrines for police engagement and violence. Really, just get out there, make your voice heard. There's no time like the present.
We've got the next 60 days. We can change the world. I'm convinced of that. We absolutely can.
Yep.
This is a priceless opportunity. Let's not miss this. Let's make our statement, become part of the conversation. Let's have national media say, why are these outbreaks of liberty occurring around the nation and they're not wearing red or blue?
Yep.
They seem to have an attraction to gold. Why not?
Yep.
There are
now is the time.
There are no limits to the possibility. There are only self-imposed limits that you place upon yourself. Yeah, it may mean taking off a couple of weekends. Yep. Again, we had folks who were involved in a variety of campaigns just show up on our doorstep. We had folks make phone calls for us. We can all do it in some level. We need to break the sweat.
Yep.
We need to maybe just move a little out of your comfort zone. Take that stretch. I've seen it happen hundreds of times where people push their limits just a little bit. And I will tell you, for the most part, the sheer joy, the smile on their face when they came back from making that first speech, that maybe they'd never gotten up in front of a group of people and spoken to an issue. And yet, not even in their own way, because that would be me, disparaging their efforts. Not that they were kind of fumbling through and it wasn't that great that they stood up. No, folks found a voice in ways that were almost incomprehensible. Folks who had never spoken to an event before, an organization, for a cause, all of a sudden let their passion for any one of these issues roll out and spoke with a genuineness, with a clearness, with a passion that only a true believer can bring. I've done this so many times. I've told the same stories so many times, whatever. People listen to me, folks like me, and they can tell I've done this. When whoever you are out there, if you listen to this, or if you hear these words, share them with your friends. When you, the greater body politic, get out there and have those first few experiences where it's unrehearsed, it's passionate, it's from your soul, people understand that. They're emboldened by it. You're giving them power because they can tell that this isn't some stump speech. This isn't some rehearsed act. This is what you believe. You know, on November 5th or November 6th, no one's going to be listening. Sorry if that sounds a little gruff. Sorry if that's a little blunt, but no one's going to be listening. The media will shut down for a while, and they'll do what they always do, which is, you know, preach how wonderful whoever fill in the blanks is that wins this time. And they'll engage in all sorts of handicapping about the periphery of the issues or the mechanics of how they're doing what they're doing or getting what they'll spend a lot of time. Richard, this is one of the things that's infuriating. The media will spend a great deal of time talking about who, Donald Trump or Joe Biden, fill in the blanks, is how they actually feel about an issue, how they're promoting an issue, why they're promoting it, how they're actively using an issue to promote something thoroughly unrelated to it, but to create an impression, how in fact their support of the issue is actually meaningless and baseless. And we'll sit there and we'll listen and we'll hear that explanation and we'll still believe they're bullshit.
Yep.
60 days, buddy. That's what we got, right?
60 days.
60 days
now
even.
Is the time.
Well, now is the time to move away from Facebook posts, Facebook diatribes, manifestos. Find a way, set a goal that you're going to talk to 20, 30, 50, 10, 5, whatever it is. You're going to talk to people who aren't libertarians.
Yep.
Listen, I applaud everyone who takes the time to go on social media and promote liberty. But for the most part, what we need right now is not people who are going to, and I mean, they're well-meaning, and some of it's good stuff, but I don't need you to send me a meme telling me to vote for Joe Jorgensen. I'm just going to tell you that right now. It's okay. You don't have to. I'm going to vote for Joe. How about you? You voting for Joe?
I think so.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say so. I would probably vote for the candidate who I work for, yeah.
Yeah. So we were in a room full at one point. We had this kind of mass of people coming in and out last night, and they were all going to vote for Joe too. So we don't need to promote Joe Jorgensen or Spike Cohen to each other. We just simply don't.
Right.
And I understand. Listen, you're a libertarian. You get to do whatever the hell you want. I'm asking you not to do that. I'm asking you to take that energy and instead of putting up actually probably a pretty funny, well-made, impassioned meme and sharing it amongst other libertarian Facebook groups, that's not campaigning.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. It's funny. I enjoy it. It ain't campaigning. You are not changing anybody's minds.
Go talk to a real person in meet space. There's something that you can do. Don't be the person who comes up with excuses instead of reasons.
Right. It really, for the next 60 days, it really is that simple. Now, we're hoping to get the candidates out here in New England. You know, when we have real dates about that, we will let you know. We don't, you know, it's a campaign is a very fluid event. Even when we have dates for it, as we all know, sometimes things change. And we all suck it up and we move on and we do what we can to adapt, improvise, and overcome. But so we will do everything we can to get the candidates into New England. You know, I, for example, by the way, as if you see folks watch this, I'm also helping Richard with media. My name is Pat Ford. If you haven't figured that out, most people in the movement in New England know me. I've met most of you. I've been to every single state now as a libertarian. I continue to plan to do so aggressively. If you've got media contacts or people you want me to reach out to for the campaign, Richard has asked me to do that for him. So I am, if you will, the point of contact for the media for the campaign for media purposes. We are aggressively working behind the scenes to make sure that we get Joe and Spike the most airtime, FaceTime, written time physically possible in a compressed 60-day cycle. We're actively working to do that. And when we have that scheduled, what we will ask you to do is watch or listen and make sure that you comment on that media outlet's Facebook page. Let's be positive. The folks that are willing to give us time, there's a couple of big places that are going to give us some airtime, and we'll let you know. And we need you to listen, and we need you to listen for a couple of reasons. First of all, for the base commercial reason that the media pays attention to people who pay attention to them. Back to life. And if you take the time for those folks who are supporting us in the media, and I don't mean in the voting sense, but willing to give us a platform, then we need you to listen to them. If the media is available afterwards, to share their pages, not simply copy the contact, and put a post up there saying, hey guys, hella job. Appreciate you guys caring enough about the election to give Joe Jorgensen and Spike Cohen the opportunity to speak to your platform. We need to say that. Let's spend less time inwardly complaining and bitching and moaning to each other about the media. The media doesn't give it. Bullshit. You know what? The media gives us time if we demand it and we support it. It really is that simple. Go ahead, Richard. I'm sorry.
No, that's absolutely right. You know, presenting that this will be positive for the media, that having Joe Jorgensen or Spike Cohen on gets them eyes on, and it makes them look good for caring about the election enough to not just, have the same two people talking about the same two things, or making the same two attacks on each other. It looks very good for them, for one, and two, presenting a positive vision of libertarianism for the future. It's easy enough to have gripes, but it's time to be positive. It's time to promote our candidates instead of just attacking the other two. Present the candidate positively, present a positive reason to have her on, and the media will follow.
Amen. Yes, amen to that. Listen, screw Trump, screw Biden. Let's promote positively. Let's not even mention their names anymore. We're here to promote our philosophy, and we have two candidates running for the presidency and the vice presidency of these United States who are immersed in our philosophy. In 2016, there were a heck of a lot of people who complained that the candidates were not out there espousing libertarianism. These two candidates may not be as famous as the last two, but I will tell you they bleed libertarian philosophy. And while I'm sure that each one of us can find in each one of us something we differ for about libertarianism, I don't doubt that. Although Richard and I, you and I are perfect. We are in lockstep.
Yes, perfect match. Bromance. Match made in heaven.
You are the wind beneath my wings. All right. So, so while for the love of God and all that's holy, we don't need someone to spend. I just don't want to see a post saying so-and-so said this, and then examine and diagram their sentence like a freaking sixth grader and try to find something different, and then see 400 comments about that, which means that people spend hours of their lives responding to an out-of-context comment by a candidate. There's plenty of time for that later. And you know what? If you want to do that, you're a libertarian, you get to do that. I'm asking you not to. I'm asking you to take that time and just invest it in something being positive. And if for some reason you can't find positivity in our top two candidates, I can't imagine why you couldn't, but if for some reason you can't, every week I do a show called An Hour with the Candidates. And we just had a hell of a candidate who's running for a congressional office for whose election national attention will be paid. And, of course, I'm talking about Chase Oliver. He's running for Congress in Atlanta for John Lewis's old district, the civil rights pioneer, and the media will be covering that. So if you don't have time, or if you, I can't imagine why, you can't find something on the national level, he is just another candidate. How about Ricky Harrington, right? Ricky Harrington is running against an entrenched racist Republican. Why not track down Ricky? He was on a couple weeks ago. Hell of a candidate. A good man. Someone who deserves your support. Someone who has led a lifetime of libertarianism and peace.
Yeah.
Hook up with them and take that energy of that 2-hour, look, I got 300 views. Guess what? In the real world, sorry, this is the opinion of me. This is the opinion of me. And actually, on this show, I am station management. So this is the opinion of station management. No one gives a damn. Right now, everything should be looking outward. Richard, I've beaten it thoroughly to death now, as I am wont to do. But I keep telling you I'm going to turn the mic over to you, and then I keep babbling. But what do you think? I'll try and zip it for a few minutes. What do you think? What?
No, I agree with everything that you've said tonight. You can't stop a good idea whose time has come. All we can do is do everything in our power to make sure that our voices are heard and we get our seat at the table. We've had enough of the Republican and Democrat negativity, and it's time for the libertarian positivity. We present a positive vision for the future where people are free to make their own decisions. They own their own bodies. They own their own labor. And ultimately, people are equal in the eyes of the law. Equal marriage, criminal justice reform, legalization of marijuana. These things have been in our platform since the very beginning. We've led the entire civil rights front. It's our time. We're built for this moment. The Libertarian Party has the platform, has the program to make these things better, solutions to solve the issues that the world faces right now. It's our time. Get out there, present that to the world. Don't promote your candidates to your libertarian entrenched friends. Promote your candidates to real people in meat space. Hold sign waves. Go canvassing. Text bank, phone bank, whatever it may be. Do something real. Do something tangible. When you find your voice, it will be so empowering that it will be addicting. You won't want to stop. Just go out and do it. Give it a shot. I beg of you. You will love it, and it will work.
And it will change your life.
It will.
Absolutely. Richard, how can they find you on the interwebs?
You can email me directly, Richard Manzo, name down below right here, at jo20.com. You can find me on Twitter at Richard Manzo NH. Just search my name on Facebook. You'll find me. I'm the only guy that looks like me. Click like on my Facebook page, add me as a friend. I don't care, whatever it is. Get connected with the campaign and get some work going.
My name is Pat Ford. I'm on the Facebook. I'm also on Facebook.com/The Coalition Radio, which is where you're seeing this broadcast from. I'm pretty much everywhere. Reach out to me. I've got stuff to do in southern New England here in the Providence, Rhode Island market specifically, as well as a little bit in eastern Connecticut and southern Mass. I've got plenty of stuff to do down this way. If you're down this way, if you want to come down this way and help out, listen, we want this to be empowering and to be fun, because it's the political theater that we're involved, this national kabuki dance called the Republican versus Democratic presidential race, is worthy of nothing less than your contempt, but also of this type of sarcasm, the caricatures, the memes that only libertarians can do.
Yes.
I'm asking for nothing less than the full creative forces of the libertarian movement across the country to be directed at Trump and Biden.
Yes.
And come up with that meme that goes viral. Use humor. We're funny bastards. We just are. So, I am moved often to tears. I'm not a funny guy. I'm funny looking, but not a funny guy. I am the sheer creativity of folks in the libertarian movement is astonishing.
Yeah.
The brilliance
really
of the people that I've met who are enormously talented, brilliant people. Well, hell, look at our presidential candidate. A professor at Clemson University, a PhD, and yet she manages to take the arcane, the challenging, the complex, and make it so accessible.
Yes.
I don't doubt for a moment that there was a time that she might have thought years ago when she got involved in the movement. I'm not going to speak for her, but and look at now. Look at the candidates that we've got out running for office in virtually every part of the country. The quote-unquote down-ballot candidates that you've seen. Hopefully, I'm on An Hour with the Candidates, a show we do on LPTV every Friday night at 8 o'clock Eastern time. We take a down-ballot candidate. If you were to look at the roster of folks who have taken it upon themselves to literally shut down their lives to run for office, the dedication, the bravery, the financial commitment, the time away from families is just astonishing. They're willing to make that commitment for you. You owe them your support. You owe them volunteer time. It's not possible, I believe, to make greater sacrifices within the libertarian movement these days than to run for a significant office, whether it be school board, water board, city council, state representative, state senator, any one of those things. I don't know if it's possible, given the sheer intrusion into your life that will occur when you do that. The financial disclosures, the Oppo research, the attempt to make us look ridiculous, despite the fact that proof of concept occurs every day during the age of COVID. These folks, these men and women are our heroes. And what I mean by that is they're taking the battle forward in a way that's profoundly personal. And yes, that is worthy in my mind of a little bit of hero worship.
And they're doing it for you.
Exactly. You and your families, your children, your grandchildren, future generations, in an attempt to do nothing less than change the direction of this nation, because we are clearly on a path to greater disaster.
Yeah.
So, reach out to us. Who else is leading some of the states? I know Valerie Sarwak is. Who are some of the other people that can be reached out to?
Yeah, Valerie Sarwak out here in New Hampshire. Yourself down in Rhode Island. Reach out to Charlie Larkin in Massachusetts, Jim Baines in Maine. You can talk to Archie Flower in Vermont. And get with Dan Rial in Connecticut. They'll put you in touch, and they'll make you. They'll find something for you. They'll find something that you can be successful at. And like I said, it'll be empowering. You'll love it. You'll never want to stop doing it. It happens to every single one of us. The friends you'll make, the stories you'll be able to share. It makes it all worth it. And this is our time. Get out there and do it. There's no excuse. Just it's our time.
Excellent. Richard Manzo, he is the campaign chair, if you will, for lack of a better term, for the Greater New England region for the Joe Jorgensen, Spike Cohen 2020 historic presidential, vice presidential campaigns. If I could just end the conversation with this for tonight, please reach out to us. But I also want to take a moment to thank the folks up in New Hampshire who helped out in both in spirit and in form and in person. A big thank you to all the folks who supported us over the last couple of weeks to bring this this march to a positive end, regardless of what happens. It's just it's ennobling when you see folks passionate about an issue. I want to thank all of them. The new volunteers that have emerged in the state of Rhode Island. We had folks, by the way, and just to tell you how empowering it is, I'll leave you this one thought. We had folks who have never been to a libertarian meeting, who have been looking for a way to get involved, who on their own, brand new, not even members of the party, went out there, knocked on doors, stood out in parks, and got signatures. And as we've probably talked too much tonight about the misery of getting signatures, I hope you'll forget this in 2 years when we need you again. But if folks who are new to the party are willing to engage in some of the most challenging jobs in politics today, folks who have never attended a meeting, literally meeting some of us for the first time, if they're willing to do that, if they're willing to interrupt their days, interrupt their jobs, place themselves out in the public at large, having to take the hard questions, field the obnoxious responses from Trump and Biden supporters, if they're willing to do that in order to support their candidates, then I would say to every member of the party, you've got to do at least as well. Time to put up. Richard, thanks a lot. And again, thanks for your help this week. And it was great to see you. And somehow I just get this sense that you and I will be talking, I don't know, tomorrow.
Yeah, probably. 10 minutes from now.
All right. Yeah. Well, this was rambling. It was all over the place, but it was a lot of fun. So, folks, share and share alike. If you have any comments, if you want to compliment Richard on his restraint, on his intelligence, great. If you want to take all sorts of shots at me, that's cool too. It's all good. But we are Campaign Update. We'll be back next Friday at about 9:15 or so. We follow directly an hour with the candidates. And while this is a lot of fun and it's inside campaign gossip and what's going on, the show that at 8 o'clock I'm immensely proud of because we bring to you quote-unquote down-ballot candidates from around the nation. And we have a conversation with them. And we talk politics and we talk issues and we look at issues in the real world through a libertarian perspective. So I hope you'll join us next Friday at 8 o'clock on LPTV, the Facebook page, as well as the National Libertarian Facebook page. 8 o'clock Eastern time. Not sure who's on the lineup yet, but we'll fill that up and we'll have another hour with the candidates. Folks, have a great night. Thanks for joining us.